The NFL world is buzzing, and not for the usual reasons. There's a storm quietly building in Cleveland, one that could reshape the franchise's future. At the center of it, Shedeur Sanders, the rookie fifth-round quarterback who stepped onto the field like he owned it, only to be deliberately held back by the team he's supposed to lead. That's right. Despite flashing elite potential in every snap he took, despite showing poise, accuracy, and leadership beyond his years, Sanders finds himself buried on the depth chart. Fans are asking the same question. Why? Why would a team keep someone with that kind of talent sidelined? The answer isn't simple, but it's messy, controversial, and exactly the kind of narrative the NFL loves to watch unfold. From the very first preseason snaps, Sanders looked like a different breed. He wasn't flashy for the sake of hype. There were no wild, showy throws designed to make highlight reels. Instead, every movement was precise, every decision calculated, every throw delivered with a calmness that felt decades beyond his rookie status. Watching him under pressure, you could see it immediately this wasn't a rookie fumbling through plays. This was someone who understood the game, who had a command of the huddle and an instinct for reading defenses that many veterans still struggle to master. And yet, the Browns chose to keep him behind players with bigger contracts, longer resumes, and far less upside. It's not just a story about a rookie overlooked, it's about the politics of a franchise. Dillon Gabriel, the supposed alternative, gets reps, gets chances, while Sanders is pushed aside, the narrative carefully controlled to maintain order, preserve hierarchy, and avoid shaking up the established structure. And let's be honest, fans smell it. Analysts smell it. Even the casual viewer watching practice can see the difference in potential. Gabriel stumbles, Sanders excels. Gabriel struggles, Sanders shines. And yet, the depth chart remains unchanged. Something bigger is at play, something deliberate. Now, before anyone accuses this of being media exaggeration or fan panic, consider the timing. Every element, the injury narrative, the calculated release of the depth chart, the way the team talks about development, lines up too perfectly to be coincidence. Observers across the league have noticed, analysts have commented, and sports media icons have taken sides. Rumors swirl that this isn't just about football performance, it's about control. The Browns want to dictate the pace of Sanders' rise to prevent fan pressure from forcing a rookie into the spotlight before they're ready. But here's the problem. Talent like this doesn't wait. It doesn't respect timelines, preseason plans, or carefully plotted agendas. It forces its way to the top, whether the organization likes it or not. And make no mistake, this is more than a quarterback controversy. It's a story about momentum, about recognition, about a rising star refusing to be stifled. Sanders' every snap sends a message not just to the opposing defense, but to Cleveland's front office, to the coaching staff, and to anyone still clinging to old hierarchies. This isn't hype. This isn't narrative fabrication. It's a player quietly proving he belongs, commanding attention without needing to prove himself with flashy theatrics or viral highlights. The poise, the leadership, the calm decisiveness under fire, it's rare for any quarterback, let alone a fifth-round rookie. And it's precisely why the controversy is so combustible. So, here's the question. Every fan, every analyst, and every decision-maker in Cleveland should be asking, how long can you suppress someone this good? How long before the talent demands to be recognized, regardless of draft position, contract, or politics? Because when a player like Sanders is ready, momentum doesn't just knock on the door, it kicks it down. And the longer the Browns wait, the higher the stakes become. By the time you realize what you've been holding back, the league will have already taken notice. The fans will have made their voices heard, and the narrative may no longer be under your control. This isn't just a preseason storyline, it's the opening salvo of a saga that could define Cleveland's future for years to come. Once you peel back the layers of the Browns' quarterback saga, the picture gets even more complicated. On paper, Dillon Gabriel was supposed to be the answer, the player to fill in, while Shedeur Sanders bided his time. But in practice, the cracks started showing almost immediately. Gabriel, who had been elevated to the spotlight, was inconsistent, erratic, and surprisingly limited in his execution. Bootleg after bootleg, play after play, receivers were tightly covered, and Gabriel's composure under pressure wasn't up to par. It wasn't just a rough day, it was a series of glaring failures that anyone watching could see. 5 reps, 1 completion, 4 sacks. A 20% completion rate? Those numbers don't lie. And yet, he maintained the spotlight while Sanders remained on the sideline, quietly developing and preparing for his moment. What's striking about this scenario is the contrast. Sanders may have been a fifth-round pick, technically under the radar, but his performance in practice sessions was consistently calm, precise, and far above what you'd expect from a rookie. Rolling out under pressure, he remained unflustered, delivering throws in stride and making decisions with an almost surgical efficiency. Meanwhile, Gabriel, despite being the favored player in terms of reps, struggled with basic timing, coverage reads, and pressure handling. Analysts watching the joint session with the Eagles noted it immediately. Sanders' throws were crisp, controlled, and calculated, while Gabriel's attempts frequently ended as throwaways or sacks. It wasn't just about the stats, it was about potential, command, and football IQ. Gabriel lacked the ability to adapt in real time. When protection collapsed or a defensive look shifted, he seemed lost, scrambling without clear vision or plan. Sanders, by contrast, adjusted effortlessly. Receivers weren't magically open. Defenses were applying pressure, yet Sanders navigated the chaos with composure, identifying opportunities and hitting his targets with confidence. Watching him, even skeptics had to acknowledge it. This kid had the instincts of a veteran and the poise of a leader. And in a league where leadership can be as important as arm strength, that's everything. The context only makes it more frustrating for fans and analysts alike. Gabriel was recovering from injury, yet he was thrust into the spotlight with limited preparation. His struggles were amplified because the team needed him to perform, yet the team simultaneously limited Sanders, arguably the better option, from gaining meaningful reps. This isn't just a rookie getting a fair shake, it's a deliberate decision by the coaching staff to test Gabriel while keeping Sanders on ice. For Kevin Stefanski, this was a calculated gamble, one that seemed designed to maintain control over the quarterback hierarchy while keeping Sanders from forcing the conversation too soon. Observers couldn't help but notice the politics at play. Sanders' superior practice performance and his ability to command the huddle underlined the disparity in how the team approached both quarterbacks. It wasn't about merit, it was about timing, optics, and control. The front office and coaching staff appeared more invested in pushing a narrative than in evaluating performance. Gabriel was being showcased as the future QB2, yet everything about his practice sessions screamed unprepared, inconsistent, and non-elite. Meanwhile, Sanders' every move highlighted a player ready to seize opportunity, ready to step into a leadership role that the organization seemed hesitant to hand over. And here's where it gets interesting. The contrast wasn't subtle. Analysts and media personalities quickly picked up on the gap. Observers like Ross Tucker noted Sanders' ability to remain calm under pressure, while Gabriel's mistakes became glaringly obvious. In practical terms, Sanders wasn't just outperforming Gabriel, he was forcing the Browns' hand. Every successful snap, every accurate throw, every moment of poise under fire amplified the question, why is the better quarterback still sidelined? Fans were scratching their heads, pundits were raising eyebrows, and the narrative began to shift. Sanders wasn't just waiting for a chance, he was proving that he didn't need it. His momentum was undeniable, even if the depth chart pretended otherwise. By the end of the joint sessions, one thing became crystal clear. The Browns were sitting on a brewing crisis of confidence. Dillon Gabriel's struggles didn't just expose his limitations, they highlighted the bigger picture, a quarterback controversy fueled by politics, injury narratives, and deliberate suppression. And if Sanders' talent continued to shine under these circumstances, the pressure on the coaching staff and front office would only intensify. Momentum, after all, waits for no one. And in this case, it was already wearing number 14. As soon as Sanders began showing flashes of brilliance on the field, the media spotlight turned toward Cleveland, and it didn't take long for speculation to explode. Journalists, analysts, and pundits all started asking the same burning question: is the team deliberately suppressing a rising star? Stephen A. Smith was among the first to weigh in, and he didn't hold back. According to him, Sanders' injury report, an oblique issue, wasn't just unfortunate timing, it was, in his words, smoke and mirrors. A convenient excuse, a story crafted to keep Sanders off the field without facing the backlash of fans who were already catching onto his undeniable talent. From the perspective of sports media, this was a juicy narrative. A fifth-round rookie with a famous name, outperforming. Carter's initial skepticism made his eventual validation all the more impactful. Before that preseason appearance, his commentary was measured, critical, and cautious. He questioned whether Sanders even deserved a spot in the quarterback room, treating him as more of a name with hype than a legitimate football prospect. But that all changed in a single game. As Sanders stepped onto the field, something shifted not in the stat sheet alone, but in the aura he brought to the huddle, the calm decisiveness in his movements, and the way he handled pressure like a veteran. Carter, watching intently, couldn't ignore it. Every precise throw, every smart adjustment, every confident read challenged his previous assumptions. What really sealed Carter's conversion wasn't a highlight reel play or a flashy touchdown. It was the total package: composure under pressure, leadership in the pocket, and, most importantly, a presence that demanded respect. Even when the defense collapsed around him, Sanders didn't panic. He adapted, improvised, and executed with surgical precision. Carter, known for his old-school demands of grit and football IQ, had no choice but to acknowledge what everyone else was starting to notice. This rookie wasn't just surviving, he was commanding. And in a league where poise under pressure separates the good from the great, Sanders' performance couldn't be ignored. Carter didn't just offer words of praise, he provided validation that reverberated across the league. By calling Sanders the best fifth-round pick in NFL history, he elevated the conversation beyond typical rookie hype. That's a bold statement, especially from someone who builds credibility on discerning analysis rather than emotional reactions. It wasn't about a single game or a few throws. It was about the way Sanders carried himself, the way he internalized the offense, and the way he demonstrated leadership beyond his years. This was recognition that Sanders' talent and readiness were genuine, not inflated by media noise or fan excitement. The impact of Carter's validation went beyond headlines. Within the Browns' locker room, it shifted dynamics and attention. Players who may have doubted or underestimated Sanders now had external confirmation from one of the league's most respected voices. It wasn't just about ego, it was about acknowledging skill, where skill deserved recognition. Carter's acknowledgement added credibility to the whispers that had been circulating among teammates. This rookie isn't just talented, he's a legitimate quarterback ready to take control. For the media, it provided a pivot point. Stories shifted from speculation about injury or political maneuvering to legitimate analysis of a rising star commanding attention through pure performance. Even Sanders' demeanor contributed to Carter's change of heart. After the game, when a reporter questioned whether he was getting too much attention as a fifth-round rookie, Sanders didn't flinch, lash out, or deflect. He responded with measured confidence. He knew his abilities, he understood his role, and he refused to be rattled by criticism. That kind of mental toughness, paired with on-field competence, is rare in rookies, and Carter recognized it immediately. What could have been seen as arrogance was actually leadership, and leadership is exactly what the Browns need at quarterback. By the end of that week, Carter's flip wasn't just a single analyst changing an opinion, it became a national talking point. Fans, media, and even the front office had to reassess the narrative. Sanders' rise, once hidden behind politics and depth chart strategy, was now impossible to ignore. Carter's validation served as a turning point in public perception, transforming skepticism into belief. And for Sanders, it wasn't about personal accolades, it was proof that performance, poise, and leadership speak louder than hype or draft status. As preseason turned into the early days of training camp, Shedeur Sanders' status in the Browns' quarterback room began to rise at a pace few could have anticipated. What started as quiet whispers among teammates and sharp-eyed analysts evolved into a consensus. This rookie, overlooked by draft position and depth charts, was quietly commanding attention. Every practice rep, every throw, every read of the defense seemed to reinforce the idea that Sanders wasn't just another developmental project. He was already outperforming veterans, and his presence in the locker room was reshaping the narrative around who truly deserved to lead this team. The shift wasn't just about physical performance, it was about leadership, poise, and mental toughness. Sanders entered the facility with an aura of quiet confidence that immediately distinguished him from the other quarterbacks. While some rookies might feel the weight of expectation or struggle to find their voice, Sanders exuded calm decisiveness. The offensive line responded instinctively to his presence, adjusting protections more efficiently, executing calls faster, and treating him with a level of respect usually reserved for 10-year veterans. Receivers sharpened their routes, knowing that the ball would arrive on time and in stride. The huddle, once just a place to relay plays, became a command center where Sanders set the tone, directing attention, focus, and energy with clarity beyond his years. Fans began noticing subtle changes too. Preseason tape and practice highlights painted a picture of a player who could manage the game and read defenses in real time, adapting when protection broke down. His timing, accuracy, and ability to exploit weaknesses weren't just statistically impressive, they were game-changing in a team context. Analysts across the league, from Chris Carter to Ross Tucker, highlighted how Sanders' throws demonstrated anticipation and timing usually seen in seasoned quarterbacks. Even defensive players from opposing teams started praising him, noting that he didn't flinch under complex coverages and consistently made adjustments that disrupted their schemes. What really elevated Sanders' status, however, was the contrast with the quarterbacks ahead of him on the depth chart. Dillon Gabriel, despite flashes of ability, remained inconsistent and prone to errors that left fans and coaches frustrated. Joe Flacco, a veteran mentor, had steadiness but lacked the long-term upside. Kenny Pickett was still developing, still prone to lapses in timing and decision-making. Against this backdrop, Sanders' composure and quick adaptation made him the clear frontrunner in practice, even if the official depth chart suggested otherwise. Every practice snap became a subtle indictment of the decision to keep him in a lower-tier role. Momentum was building, and it was becoming impossible to ignore. The media, initially focused on Gabriel's promotion and Sanders' supposed injury setback, quickly shifted. Headlines began reflecting the reality that Sanders was no longer a fringe project. Reports highlighted his growing command of the huddle, his ability to make clean reads under pressure, and his quiet but undeniable leadership. Analysts described how the locker room's conversations had changed. Questions shifted from "who might start?" to "how long can we realistically keep Sanders off the field?" That shift isn't just symbolic, it reflects a seismic change in perception that affects everything from team strategy to fan engagement. Even within the coaching staff, the shift was palpable. Coaches had to contend with undeniable evidence. Sanders' poise, precision, and game intelligence were already influencing practice outcomes and player behavior. The growing recognition wasn't based on hype or flashy plays, it was grounded in consistent performance, mental toughness, and leadership. Momentum, in this context, wasn't something that could be manufactured, it was earned through execution, day after day, rep after rep, and Sanders was earning it faster than anyone could have predicted. By the time the preseason wrapped up, Sanders' rising status was impossible to ignore. He was no longer simply a fifth-round rookie with potential, he had become the central figure in the quarterback conversation. The locker room, the fans, and even national analysts were all aligned. This was the player who could lead the Browns, and the conversation had shifted from speculation to urgency. What was once maybe in the future had become why wait? Momentum, recognition, and leadership had converged, and Shedeur Sanders had risen from quiet promise to undeniable force, forcing Cleveland to confront a simple truth: their future, for better or worse, was already taking the field. As Shedeur Sanders' rising star became undeniable, the stakes for the Cleveland Browns went far beyond any single game or practice. This wasn't just about who starts at quarterback. This was about the very trajectory of a franchise that had spent decades searching for stability under center. The quarterback position is always pivotal in the NFL, but in Cleveland, it's more than that. It's the difference between mediocrity, playoff contention, and finally, long-term legitimacy. Sanders' emergence has suddenly put the organization at a crossroads, and the decisions made in the coming weeks could define the next half-decade of Browns football. From the front office to the coaching staff, the pressure is palpable. Draft status, contract sizes, and established hierarchies suddenly collide with the undeniable evidence of Sanders' talent and composure. Dillon Gabriel, Joe Flacco, and Kenny Pickett were all vying for attention, each with varying levels of investment and expectation. Yet Sanders' performance forced the Browns to confront a difficult truth. The best quarterback on the roster isn't the one with the bigger contract or the longer resume, it's the rookie fifth-rounder who's turning heads at every practice. The stakes are no longer theoretical. Ich Decision A? As we reach the final stretch of this story, it's time to look beyond the stats, beyond the hype, and beyond the debates echoing across social media. The Cleveland Browns are standing at a pivotal moment, and the decision they make in the next few weeks won't just impact a single game, it will shape the franchise's identity for years to come. Shedeur Sanders has proven he's not just a promising rookie or a preseason curiosity. He has demonstrated poise, leadership, and an innate ability to command the huddle like a veteran, and now the challenge falls squarely on the organization. Will they trust what they see? Or will they let politics, draft pedigree, and outdated protocols dictate the path forward? Here's the reality. Every delay in giving Sanders the starting role comes with consequences. Fans are no longer passive observers. They see it, feel it, and are demanding it. The locker room knows it, and even the toughest critics, analysts who built their reputations on skepticism, are conceding that Sanders is the real deal. This isn't just media noise. This is momentum manifesting in every rep, every throw, and every subtle command that sets the pace for the offense. The Browns cannot afford to underestimate the pressure building both inside and outside the facility. The urgency is palpable, and every moment Sanders sits sidelined while the evidence of his readiness accumulates is a missed opportunity for the franchise. Now, here's where the challenge intensifies. This isn't just a nudge to the coaching staff or front office, it's a call for action across the board. Step aside from hesitation. Step aside from politics. Step aside from the comfort of tradition. The decision to start Sanders should not be about appeasing media narratives or managing expectations. It should be about maximizing the team's potential right now. Momentum doesn't wait for consent forms or pre-drafted plans. It arrives when a talent like Sanders proves he's ready, and Cleveland must be bold enough to ride the wave rather than resist it. The implications are massive. Starting Sanders isn't simply about giving a rookie reps. It's about signaling a shift in culture, a willingness to embrace what's real over what's convenient. It's about telling every player in the locker room that performance, not status, matters. It's about showing fans that the organization is committed to winning now, not merely managing development timelines. The ripple effect of that decision extends far beyond the field. It influences morale, confidence, and the perception of Cleveland as a franchise that recognizes and nurtures elite talent. And here's the kicker. The league is watching. Every team monitors momentum and development trajectories, and the story unfolding in Cleveland is a blueprint for how talent can either be unleashed or stifled. If the Browns act decisively, they could accelerate their path to contention and establish a quarterback-led identity for years to come. If they hesitate, they risk repeating a decades-long pattern of missed opportunities. Sanders isn't just a player. They're not handing the ball to a rookie. They're standing at the edge of a potential turning point in franchise history. So here's the final challenge, not just for Cleveland, but for everyone watching this unfold. Pause. Strip away draft numbers, contract details, and past biases. Look at Sanders in the present moment, the calm under pressure, the command of the huddle, the precision in the throws, the confidence that lifts everyone around him. Now ask yourself, if the organization fails to act on what's right in front of them, what message does that send to the team, the fans, and the league? Momentum waits for no one, and history favors those who seize it. The call to action is simple. Start Sanders. Not because the media demands it, not because Chris Carter reversed his stance, not because fans are shouting from the stands. Start him because every shred of evidence, every play, every observation screams that he's earned it. Start him because the future of the franchise, its identity, its culture, its competitive window demands it. The clock is ticking and the decision is urgent. Cleveland, the challenge is clear. Unleash your quarterback, ride the momentum, and secure the future. The question now is, will they answer it, or will history write the story without them?